and welcome everyone to this team call tonight. I am really, really excited about it. I know that team calls can kind of come in all different shapes and sizes. We really try to get them to be instructional, motivational. Sometimes they're awesome, and sometimes they get me by here as I'm trying to share content with you guys. But I'm really excited about this one tonight because we have a good friend of mine and someone I've known for a very long time, but I think even better than that is someone who has some amazing expertise to share with us. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit in Successfit when I was typing, but I always find being more conversational is a little bit easier to get my point across. And when I started coaching for over 4 years ago now, which is kind of nuts, the world of social media was an entirely different place. And some things in what we do haven't changed. Like certainly the need for consistency, the need for those vital behaviors that we talk about, like you being a product of the product and really loving the idea of helping others and helping yourself and living a healthy and fulfilling life, like how we connect with people, things like that. Those things really haven't changed. But a huge, massive piece of what really created a lot of success for people and allowed us as coaches in the beginning to reach out and connect with other people was social media. It's what made Beachbody different, and being a coach, what I thought really exciting, because I wasn't super into having parties or anything like that. What I wanted was to share my passion with people and help them change their lives through health and fitness. And it was really cool because when I started how we did that, because Facebook was still quite new even then, or using Facebook for business was quite new. So what people did was you just threw content out there because there weren't that many of us doing it. And that was great for a while, but now social media has evolved so much, and it is full of people using it for a business, some really great and doing it really well, and some not. And that leaves a lot of us in a position where we are white noise. And the cool thing is that people are still having such great success in social media. They are finding their voice. And I think instead of this quantity level, which was the land of social media that I came in with, we're learning the value of quality and the depth of who we are and the brand we're creating and how we're really trying to help people. And so as I've kind of started to feel the shift and change in social media, I was fortunate to reconnect with Ashley, who, as I said, I'm super excited to introduce you guys tonight, and I promise to pass it over to her in a second. Our lives, I feel like, have always been intertwined in a way. Like we grew up in the same small town, we went to the same high school. And I know that you, Ashley, ran into like my dad over in Vietnam, and my brother and sister went to her wedding in Vietnam. Like I feel like our lives have always somehow crossed, and somehow, some way, we reconnected through sort of our love of helping other people in health and fitness and using social media and email marketing to do that. And lucky me, I feel like Ashley has kind of graced me with this massive gift of working alongside me to understand these key things that I'm trying to learn, and that I want you guys to understand, so you can help create depth in your business in terms of your brand and your voice and how you reach people, because you all have it in you. And I think what has helped me so much over the last 2 months, I guess I would say we've been pretty consistent about connecting, is a lot of like sort of the courses, the content, the way Ashley has helped me understand and go through what I'm trying to do here and how to connect with people and drive engagement. And what I have seen in my business has been huge, because I post less than I ever have, which means I'm less of a slave to social media than I've ever been. And I have much better engagement. And I also have people reaching out to me because of how I'm clarifying that voice and how I'm able to really dig into that. And the only shift that has happened in my brand is Ashley and the work that we have done together. So I'm really excited and so grateful that she's taking this time tonight to share with us what some amazing tips to help you all start to develop this side of your business, because I believe this is the future of where we can move into social media. And it just means that we're kind of at the beginning of a new level of social media. So if we can master this now, we've got a few years of doing this and doing this well before social media kind of shifts and changes again. So it's an amazing opportunity. Grab your pens and pencils, get ready to take down lots of notes and soak this in. I introduced Ashley in Successfit, but she's been raised in the fitness world. I know she'll share a little bit about her story, but she's currently the president of like a health and fitness club in Vancouver. And but I think your passion, one, is in helping women specifically in health and fitness and kind of living your best life, and certainly in brand and marketing and teaching, which she is, I can promise, very good at. So I am going to pass it along to her. Put your questions in the chat as we go so she can kind of go through her presentation and take those questions. But I know that she's been in Successfit for the last little while, watching your questions as I've talked to you guys about her connecting here tonight. And so she is very well prepared in what it is that we've all been struggling with, what our pain points are, and is really hoping to address those tonight. So Ashley, without further ado, I'm going to pass it on over to you. And I am really, really, really happy to have you on. So thank you so much for taking this time tonight. You will probably need to unmute yourself, but if you have trouble, I can help you.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, good to go. Okay, and can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me just see if I can put this into play mode. Yes, I did it. I think it's working. So you can see my full screen, you can see me, and you can hear me.
Yes, you're good.
This is a win. Okay, amazing.
All around.
Well, thank you so much for that really nice, warm welcome. I am so excited to be talking to you guys tonight. And I hope that by the end of the call today, you will leave feeling so inspired and so motivated, and like you have 7 action steps that you can take from here and implement right away. So the theme of the presentation today is really about content isn't enough, the 7 rules of engagement. So I'm going to start by, I have the same sweatshirt on. I'm going to start by telling you guys just a little bit about me and my story, where I've come from. So really the beginning of time for me started October 29th, 1984. My mom started going into having contractions in my parents' Gold's Gym parking lot. So my first steps were within a gym when I was just a baby. And I really grew up with my mom being this aerobics instructor, my dad being a bodybuilder. I remember even going and doing my mom's step classes and being so uncoordinated. And that gym environment, it's a fabric of my soul. It's who I am. It's where I really started. So from there, just to give you guys a little bit more background as to my fitness experience and sort of journey, I ended up, I lived in Cobourg, Ontario. That's where my parents are from, so small town Cobourg. And I ended up going through school, and I actually had a pretty traumatic experience in school where I ended up losing my best friend when I was in grade 9. And the reason I bring this up is because it's really important to understand how my journey reconnected to fitness at this point in my life. I was having a lot of struggles with being able to day-to-day control my mood, control my emotions, and there wasn't a lot of support for me. I found that people really knew what I was going through, and it wasn't until I ended up in university that I made this connection with exercise that, holy smokes, if I exercise when I'm having a bad day, I can immediately get myself out of that state. That was so wildly powerful. It really changed my life because it was a pretty tough time going through and being a teenager and having this emotional load on my shoulders. So that taught me about empathy. It really did. It taught me that you don't know what other people are going through. So never judge, don't tell their story, let them tell you their story and what's going on. So from there, I went to Queen's University in Kingston. And at that time, I was a big creative. Like when I was in, actually to backtrack a sec, when I was in grade 1, I had this amazing teacher from Australia. Her name was Mrs. Gravlev. And she really helped encourage me on that path of being a writer. And I remember just writing books and books and books. And that was a part of who I was, even at that young of an age. I loved to write, and I had journals and journals, which were horribly embarrassing. I had to burn them all, but it was just part of who I was and how I really coped with day-to-day life. So in university, I chose the path of going into English literature and women's studies. Women's studies for me was this beautiful melody of being able to take this different look at the world and ask questions that no one else was asking. And it was really interesting because I really connected with the fact that as a woman, I felt like I was noticing that I didn't have similar opportunities. And I think it started very young with my brother, and he didn't have to do the dishes, and that really pissed me off. So it really started at that young of an age that I knew I wanted to work with women. And so from university, I was part-time working at a Good Life Fitness at a women's only club, ended up moving back to my hometown, became a trainer, worked in the sales side as a general manager of a club and a fitness manager. So I was at Good Life probably for about a year and a half. And funny enough, my husband met Bria's dad, actually, who was he was going back and forth to Vietnam. And Bill decided, you know what, maybe this is something we should try. Bill was really into online marketing, and he had a knack for really understanding that sort of detailed side of things that I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm never going to understand it. I'm not even going to try. And so we sold everything. We packed up and we moved to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, where actually Bill Gadd, so Bria's dad, met us at the airport. And we were there for, it was about a year altogether that we lived there. And we were creating products in Vietnam with local artisans, scarf rings and paintings and all the different products, baby bed sheets at one point. We were just creating products. And then Bill was able to create an online portal that we were selling them online. I was doing the blogging and the videos to go with it. And it was fantastic. It was dipping our toe in this different side that was like, holy smokes, like maybe this could really work for us. Maybe we could really quit our jobs, not be location specific, and this is our thing. And I think what we found at the end of it, we had done pretty well in sales online, but we were finding that we wanted that connection back in Canada. We were kind of missing that safety of being on, Canadian soil and being around family. So we decided to make a move back. And at that point, I actually went back to Good Life and started working in the training and development department. So this was a big light bulb for me. I absolutely loved training. I was training managers all across Canada for Good Life. And there was just something about taking information, simplifying it, and then trying to make it really sticky. Because I knew that if I could make it sticky and I could tell stories and people would resonate with it and they really liked it, then I was making their life better. So it was this connection with teaching and developing people that I couldn't get enough of. So I ended up actually getting an opportunity to go to the Maritimes. I was out in Nova Scotia and then New Brunswick, and I was working with, we took over 34 clubs out there. And so I was part of that transition. And then I moved to New Brunswick as a district sales manager. And I was out there for 4 years with Good Life. I had 5 women's only clubs and 4 co-ed clubs. So that was quite a trip to just, it was a lot of moving in the last 10 years. I think I've lived in 10 different places in the last 10 years in terms of apartments and houses. It's been a bit nutty. So I got a call, it was about 2 years ago, actually in a couple of months. And it was a recruiter asking me if I wanted to go to the West Coast. And at that point, I was really ready for a change. I'd been with Good Life for 10 years, and I decided that I was going to make the change and the transition. And so I'd worked for the largest company in Canada. Then I started working for the second largest company in Canada, which is Steve Nash Fitness World. So what I got from them was this whole different experience on marketing. I started to really actually fall in love with marketing because of how much fun they really showed me it could be. And it all of a sudden just started a lot of spurring of conversations within my soul about what should I be doing with my life? Like, I love fitness. I'm obviously in it for the long haul. I've been in it all of my life. But what is that deeper calling that's going to help fill my soul up? And I did a lot of work actually with a business coach on trying to answer those tough questions. What's my life mission? What are my values? And what do I need to be doing actually every day to feel successful and feel happy and fulfilled? And I started more and more coming across this answer of, I'm going to be a blogger. I like to write. That makes sense. I'm going to just start blogging about being a millennial, wanting work-life balance. And so I was doing that for a while, but there was something missing. I thought, you know what? I could never do this full time because fitness is missing. And that is just a part of my life. So I was at Steve Nash for about a year, still working with my business coach, and made the move to Vancouver Island, where I currently live now. I've been out on the island for, it's been about a year and a half, and I'm the president of VI Fitness. So I have, there's 8 clubs out here that I'm the president for. And I do actually get to do what I love really every day, working with female leadership team, which is, it's so rewarding. But even better than that, I think I finally found and really refined what it is. If everything is important, then nothing is important. And my biggest annoyance is when I've done training or been in a seminar and someone makes something so complicated. It takes more work to simplify something, but I expect that as someone that hates detail. I think as a creative, I don't know what it is, but I can't take it. I hate it. So that is part of my style too. So this is something we're going to talk a little bit about in the training today. But this would sort of describe this sweet spot of who I am. I am a I call it kind of like a magic unicorn. Like, we all have this thing that makes up who we are and is our story. And there's a reason I'm sharing so much detail with you today, which is going to get into actually the first rule of engagement. So I really realized through all this work I had done, this personal journey with my business coach, even though it's a grind, there's so many people you can help that are just beyond, that brick and mortar sort of, business model. So as soon as I realized that, it has been I feel like this weight has been lifted off me, that I finally know what I need to be doing with my life, which is an amazing feeling. So I hope everyone is relaxed. Maybe you have a glass of wine, your feet are up in front of the fire, and you're ready to take it all in. So we're going to get into the good stuff. So the objectives of our training today, we're going to start with the 7 reasons that if you're feeling you're lacking engagement, these are the reasons why. Then we're going to go over the 7 foundational steps to get your ideal customers to engage, show you have value, and actually take action. Next, we're going to move into a journey. I'm going to take you on a little journey down to Lululemon Land and give you some really concrete examples. And then I'm going to leave you with some resources to get you ready and prepped for January, Super Bowl month, the most important month in the fitness year. So I wanted to, as I was preparing, I guess, this presentation, what I was really looking for is to try to figure out what challenges you guys face on a day-to-day basis. And what I really was reading through the comments and reading through what you guys were talking about is that really content used to be enough. I remember reading marketing articles would be like, content's king. Just keep pumping out the content. You can keep pumping it out. Things will be good, right? Content isn't enough, but it used to be. So it's not that it's this false claim that was never true. It was true at one point. But the problem is, think about all the noise. Think about the fact that now there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's Snapchat, there's all these interruptions. We have a cell phone on us, most of us, 80% of the day. There are all these distractions and this busyness that has come into our lives that there's no other way for you to stand out but to show your value. And as hopefully you got from my introduction, I'm telling you, everyone has a sweet spot of value that you need to carve out, and you need to get up on the rooftops and shout out, because that will cut through the noise. So these are the 7 reasons that you're lacking engagement. So the first one is you haven't built authentic trust. So what this means is that all things equal, people will do business with and refer business to people they know, they trust, and they like. So I want you to think about for a second in your social media posts here, how do you build trust? How do you really share your story, share who you are, and get people getting to know you and to like you and to trust you? If that is not an intentional part of your strategy, that's something that, if you are the exact same as another coach or someone else in the fitness industry, another gym, people will always choose the people that they know, trust, and like the most, all things being the same. So that's rule number 1. The second is that you haven't differentiated yourself in a sea of sameness. When I heard this word sea of sameness, it was so obvious that that is currently what's out there. If you look at Facebook or any of your social media feeds, holy smokes, it can feel like the same thing over and over and repurposed again and again and again. So you can't look at the competition and say you're going to do it better. You have to look at the competition and say you're going to do it differently. And I think what that means for me is that you can't be a copycat and just copy someone else's posts and hope that your market's going to eat it up and want to hear it from you. No, they want to hear what you have to say. They're following you for a reason, and you really got to be able to serve up why you're different, and that really comes from that sweet spot. Why would someone want to choose you over anyone else? You got to be clear on that before your customer will be. The next is you haven't aligned your tribe. So what this means is you want to stick with the people who pull the magic out of you and not the madness. What this really means is these are your values. So values to me are like a magnet. So I want you to think about this for a second. For me, if I was someone, I've told you guys, I'm very much about being simple. If someone comes at me with questions about details and they're very analytical, I go into analysis paralysis. And I don't really feel like that is a good energy for me to be dealing with. So I really straight up in all my about me pages, in about anything I'm posting, everything is super simple. And I have it that if you want to work with me, I am all about simplicity. So if you're looking for some crazy formula using pie charts, and that's not me, I'm not your girl. So it's really important to be clear about what you stand for, because I guarantee you, if you know that and you're vocal about it, you'll attract the right people that you actually want to work with. And it's kind of like this elevator principle. The people that you're meant to work with will lift you up. Anyone else that doesn't share your values will bring you down. The next is you haven't defined your authentic customer experience. So what this really means is that your brand is a story unfolding across all customer touch points. So if you think here for a second about your brand experience, every brand has something that is called a brand avatar. So it's everything from the colors you use, the font you use, the style of verbiage you use. So if you're not clear on which archetype your brand is, your messaging is going to look inconsistent. It's not going to feel like it was intentional. And when you're creating an experience, everything is intentional. If we talk about one of the best brands in the world, Disney is absolutely one of those brands. And so one of the things that they do, this unfolding story, is you're in Disney. I'm not sure if anyone's had this experience where you're in Disneyland and your daughter drops her ice cream cone and starts crying, getting really upset. Oh no, there's my ice cream cone. And you're like, oh, it's going to be a $10 ice cream cone. I'm going to have to buy her another one. Someone sweeps in, one of the Disney specialists, they see what's happened, and they get her an ice cream cone immediately. This is what I'm talking about in this intentional brand experience. Disney's vision is to ensure that everyone's happy. So they make an intentional point to review all the points their brand touches people and make sure it's the right experience. Next, we have, you don't know who you're actually talking to. So get closer than ever to your customers. So close that you can tell them what they need well before they even realize it themselves. So if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. And really at this level, all of us need to be very, very specific, because every post needs to be directed to that specific ideal customer. And I'm going to share with you guys some really cool stuff about another brand that really does this so very well. Next, you don't know which 20% gets the 80% of your results. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard of this 80-20 rule. Well, this is the 80-20 rule in action. 80% of the sales come from 20% of your salespeople. So if you have a team and you think about those numbers, there's always that differentiator in statistics. So when we look at, another example would be, if you look at, for us, our membership base, you can look at location and demographics of the revenue coming into the clubs. It comes from 20% of our demographic, that specific revenue amount. So the 80-20 rule is always telling us that 20% of your efforts give you 80% of the results. So this is extremely important when you're looking at exactly if you're venturing into Facebook ads, or you're thinking about, which people should I put more time into targeting in my social posts? 80-20 rule will save you time every time. And the last one here is, you don't have a strategy on answering the questions that keep your ideal customer up at night. So this is a little quote that I've coined here. Knowing your customers, knowing what actually does keep them up at night. That is your guide point in being able to speak to them directly where they're at every single time. And this is a hard question to answer, but you got to really go deep so that you understand exactly what they need to see on their social media feed. So the 7 foundational steps to get your ideal customer to engage and take action are as follows. So this is a quick summary of those 7 steps with the actual action that you need to take. So the first is your story. Your story will build that authentic trust and tell your audience, why should I trust you? The next is your sweet spot. So this is what differentiates you in a sea of sameness. What makes you a magical unicorn? The next is your values. This is how you align your tribe. Who do you actually want to attract? Your values will help you attract and act as a magnet to those key people. The next is your brand. What is the language you actually speak? And what is that experience you want your customers to have? Your ideal customer. Who is the ideal customer that actually should be buying from you? As specific as their name, their age, how many kids do they have? What kind of car do they drive? Where do they live? Where do they work? What does their husband do? You need to have all of that detail very much ironed out so that that is your muse every time you're doing any sort of engaging or posting. Your 80-20 rule. So which 20% should you pay attention to because they will commit? I heard this question come up as well, looking at, you're talking to people, but they're not wanting to take action. And it's kind of this cycle of, going after people but they're not willing to take action. In your statistics, in your business, the 80-20 rule. Now, sometimes it becomes 30-70, 40-60. There's always this little bit of variance, but I guarantee you when you start to dig into that 80-20 rule, it will emerge that there are patterns about who is purchasing and who are the tire kickers. Your content generator. So all of your content needs to be coming from, what does your ideal customer write in her diary? So when you think about, the extras of writing a blog post, doing a video, you need to really understand what are those themes and patterns that customer writes about, and then make sure that you have this funnel and this system of hitting on those pain points every single time you're putting out those articles and blog posts. So we're going to take a journey. This journey will be down the road of one of the most successful brands of all time. So I'm sure that everyone has heard of Lululemon and probably owns quite a few items of their clothing. So the first Lululemon store opened in 1998, and it opened in Kitsilano, which is a beachside part of Vancouver, pretty hippy-dippy granola sort of area there. And Chip Wilson, just to give you an example of how successful Lululemon is, obviously he's not part of the company anymore, but he's worth $2.9 billion. So Lululemon is one of those crazy companies that has this wild, wild success story. And I will tell you, I went in actually to meet with, this was back when I was living in Vancouver. I was working for Nash, and I talked to a girl that was actually a recruiter that worked at Lululemon. I was so curious about what was going on in there that I met with her, and I was just blown away by the office space. They had a yoga studio. They had this beautiful meeting area where there was coffee, and it was just this gorgeous, right from the second I walked in the door, brand experience right in your face, even in this back office area that the employees were. It was stunning. So I want to walk you through, we talked about step one being telling your story. So I wanted to actually share with you the story of Lululemon. And this is I just pulled this directly from their website. I'm going to read it to you word for word, how they describe what's happened. So what started as a design studio by day and a yoga studio by night. It soon became a standalone store in November 2000 on West 4th Avenue in Vancouver's Kitsilano neighborhood. The idea was that to have the store be a community hub where people could learn and discuss the physical aspects of healthy living, from yoga and diet to running and cycling, as well as the mental aspects of living a powerful life and those possibilities. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the store became so busy that it was impossible to help the customer in these ways in addition to selling the products. And the focus of training shifted solely to the Lululemon educator / staff person. Their goal was to train their people so well that they could in fact positively influence their families, communities, and people walking into their stores. So they share this beautiful story about how it started with one location, and in order to keep the doors open, they had yoga happening there at night, and it transformed into this beating heart of "This is yoga," which is one of their current slogans that they use. So the next part of this on their website is they talk about their history, they talk about their manifesto. This is just so ingrained in who they are as a company and putting it out on the forefront. So the next area, that's really how they build that authentic trust. So the next area we're going to talk about here is their sweet spot. So it was a yoga studio by day. So we got yoga in there. And then we've also got Chip Wilson, who was a technical fiber guru. West Beach was what he had done before this. So he was extremely into surfing and snowboarding and these euphoric feelings that he created. And as he started doing yoga and meditation, he realized, oh, that's the same feeling I get from snowboarding and surfing. I'm really going to get into this. And so the vision of their store is to create more than a place where people could get gear to sweat in. We wanted to create a community hub where people could learn and discuss the physical aspects of healthy living. there you have it, Lululemon's sweet spot. They do yoga as their core, technical athletic fabrics, and they want to be this community hub. They even open their doors on the weekends to allow yoga studios to do classes in their facilities, as they did in the early days. So it's quite a unique sweet spot. There's a ton of competition in athletic wear. No one else had done this before. This is how they differentiated themselves in that sea of sameness. So step 3 is their values. So these values, when I look at these, they look pretty generic, to be honest. I looked at them and was like, oh, they don't really stand out to me as being anything too crazy. But here's where it got interesting. As I looked at this, which you all might be familiar with on the Lululemon bags, any of their gift cards, anything like that, you see these sayings, or I called them word strings. So on the page before, one of them was balance. So on here, we've got sweat once a day to regenerate your skin, breathe deeply, friends are more important than money, practice yoga. There's all these things on here which are telling their customers, these are our values. If you align, you're in the tribe. So that's how they've aligned their tribe. Step 4. This was one of the coolest ones. So this is all about building their brand archetype, and what is Lululemon as a brand. So they actually fall under an archetype called the magician. So every brand would have an archetype, because this creates that fluidity and the emotional language you're going to use with your clients. So what a magician is someone that's an inventor, a transformer, a visionary. And it gets a bit like creepy interesting here where you read the goal of this brand, the strategy, and fear. The goal of a magician brand is to make dreams come true, understand the laws of the universe. So with Lululemon, they talk a lot about like, it's almost like The Secret, right? You'll see in the stores, everyone's got their goals on the wall. It's very much about making your dreams come true, using the laws of the universe to get there. And then you've got strategy. So develop a vision to live by, and help other people transform their lives using new methods, invent new methods and processes. So one thing that's interesting about this is they have this training there. It's called Landmark, and they put all of their employees through it. It's a crazy expensive training. They are absolutely helping people transform their lives. And then you have the fear, unintended negative consequences, that their methodologies won't work out as planned. What's crazy about that is Lululemon has a lab in Vancouver where they test all of their products before they put them out in their stores. So they do have a big fear about putting out inventions that don't make sense to the public. So you can go to the Lulu lab and try something on. I remember trying something on. It had a zipper like all the way up. Like, I was thinking, I don't think this is going to fly, guys. But anyways, super cool experience. If you are in Vancouver, that's an awesome place to check out. So, and this is just something I pulled from their page here. We know that yoga rejuvenates our bodies and calms our mind. And one of the ways we practice without expectation is by sharing our love for yoga. So you can see that that archetype really come through in how they're talking about this rejuvenation of body, calming the mind. It's like when you go into a yoga class, you think about it, there's this transformation that happens. Not only are the poses in a way magician form, you go into cat and cow and all these different things, but then you've got the way that they're speaking about yoga, transforming and rejuvenating your body and mind and calming. It's really interesting how they really play into even those word choices is what we're like focused on with the magician. How the magician would talk is going to be that that idea of changing something or making something appear differently than what it is. So you'll really start to see those trends as you look further into Lululemon and their wording. So they've defined their authentic brand experience and what they want their people to feel. This blew my mind. So their ideal customer. I wanted to introduce you guys all to Ocean. So early on at Lululemon, they actually created a muse who inspired all of their merchandise. Many clothing brands name their ideal customer as a way to spur the design process, as we've talked about and that you guys know. So Ocean is engaged. She has her own condo, and she's a 32-year-old professional single woman who makes $100,000 a year. She is traveling, fashionable, has an hour and a half to work out a day. And Chip Wilson explains why this persona really works and why this woman is so aspirational. Well, if you're 20 years old and you're graduating from university, you can't wait to be that woman. And if you're 42 years old with a couple of kids, you wish you had that time back. So what is so interesting about this is that every post that you read that Lululemon's putting out, they're talking to Ocean. They're talking to that girl and those demographics, and they know a lot about her. So I thought that was just super interesting, and you'll really start to see it now that I've mentioned it to you. So they know exactly who they're talking to. The 80-20 rule. So we've talked a little bit about this. This is always a really fun question if you guys have your teams. The best question to ask is, okay, so in the room, who has 10 pairs of yoga pants from Lululemon, or 10 items from Lululemon? So you get your people, put their hands up. Okay, who has 20? Put your hands up. Some hands are going to go down. Okay, 30. A lot of hands go down. 40, 50. And you will see that in the room, 20% own 80% of the inventory. And that will be with everything that any question you guys were to ask, it's that 80-20 rule at work. And what's crazy about this is that Lululemon has really defined that market. They know their core is 28 to 34. That would be all that they would focus their marketing on. And they have this aspirational kind of outer layer that would also kind of get roped into it because it's this aspirational brand. But you want to know your market so well, who is spending the money on what you have to offer. So they know which 20% gets them 80% of their results. So the last step here is step number 7. So I thought this was interesting because we are at this point looking at, this is their Pinterest page. So this is about content generation. So they are thinking about what keeps Ocean up at night. Well, she's a busy career, young professional. She's engaged. She still wants to really be healthy. She works out 7 days a week. So what is Ocean thinking about? So it's really interesting as you look at all these things that they're pinning. What should I do for my workout today? Where should we go for dinner? What can I do to relax and just take the weekend in? I wonder what's going on this week. Where should I bring my fiance's parents who are coming into town for brunch on Saturday? I wonder what that new spin studio is like. All the questions that are going through Ocean's head are in every bit of their Pinterest board, Facebook posts. They're all there. So when you know exactly who your customer is, you can speak directly to them. Don't worry about any of the blur outside of that. You will hit the nail on the head when you speak to one person. So they do a great job of answering the questions that run through their ideal customer's mind all day. So guys, I'm just going to wrap it up here. So we have 5 weeks until 2018. And this is the big question overall. Are you training to reach your full potential? Because in our industry, training really and prep really starts now. It is the month of December that preps us for a really big launch in January. So I have a bunch of free resources for you to check out. So there is the business building for fitness entrepreneurs. So that is our Facebook community. So by joining that group, you'll get access to I do a ton of done for you templates. I do a ton of writing and videos on these sort of topics, a lot to do with content, a lot to do with fitness and marketing. You can also go to the website. There is a done for you content calendar. I've planned out a couple of weeks with all the hashtags and all the ideas around the types of posts you can do. So by doing so, you'll get training sent right to your inbox for doing that. And if you have that little niggly, like you've watched this today and you're like, okay, you know what? I trust in my gut. This feels like it could be right for me. We do have a 21-day challenge that is coming up. And with that challenge, we focus on those 7 modules you've heard about today, but we dig really deep. You get video and a template to really do the work and get to that core of who you are. So I have a course running, and enrollment is until December 5th. and it's actually 50% off for Beachbody coaches. So I have the updated link in there. If you guys click that link, it'll take you there if you're interested in learning more about that. So I thought I would run a little contest. So there's 3 things that you would do to participate in the contest. So you can join the Facebook group, you can download the Done For You template, and then if you loved what you heard today, I would love for you to share the 21-day You Challenge with 5 people that this could help on your Beachbody team. Anyone that you think this would provide value for. What I will do is I have some handouts, I have a PowerPoint, all that sort of stuff that I'll be able to provide for you guys to fill in those gaps. And obviously you guys have this recorded video. This is the post that you would share to be part of the contest. So this post is actually just in that business building for fitness entrepreneurs. So you would share that and just tag your 5 people from your team you think would benefit the most from it. And what you would win is your full tuition to the 21-day You Challenge. So I just wanted to throw that out there if anyone found this very helpful and they feel like timing is right for them. So these are some of the important links, and I'll make sure that you guys have those so you can click on those. It'll take you right there. Please email me anytime. It's just ashley@ashleyshaw.ca. And I also included my About Me page if you're wanting more info there. And this is my social media, my Instagram, my Facebook and Twitter account. Those are the places. So it's been such a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know everyone is super busy, and I so appreciate being able to present to you guys today and share all this this valuable information. So that is that's all I got.
Ashley, that's awesome. I have some questions, but I know that there were 1 or 2 that kind of popped in here. So let's just take a look at the chat before I kind of, take over and talk, because I have a tendency to do that. That was amazing, by the way. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
So Sabrina wanted to know, how do you find out what your brand archetype is or should be?
Yeah, there's quite a few different quizzes and stuff online that you can look up. But typically you would take a quiz and then it would sort of tell you where it adds up and what, where your brand probably lies. And you got to get really kind of, strict with it, because they can be the same. And then you're going to have to make sure one rises above the other.
And this is something I'll say that this is part of what you'll do in the modules, I think, in the deeper training, if that is something that you want to do. This is something that Ashley took me through, and that I'm still sort of learning about and diving into for myself. But it is really funny. I remember specifically you saying, now that you know this and you start thinking about it, you're going to start seeing how other people talk, people who understand this and are kind of big brothering you already in the land of, how they speak. And it's so true. It started to make sense to me. My brand archetype is the lover, and the words that I use, it's starting to come a little bit more easily to me since we've been working on it. But I just want to run through, if that's okay, before we sign off tonight, just kind of go through what that is. So you're going to send us the links to those freebies that you've made.
Yeah,
so we have
I'll send you guys all those resources. So you have those. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And I will put those in Successfit, as well as how to enter into the competition, which means winning your tuition into the 21-day challenge. And so the 21-day challenge is normally $297. And so for your team, I'm going to do it at 50% off. So it will be $149. And that's Canadian.
Yes. Canadian. Okay.
Which I think is important for all of us. And that would be 21 days, because it's a 21-day challenge. And what you're going to do is kind of take, as you said, a deep dive into these 7 steps where it's amazing that you've been able to kind of walk us through the 7 struggles the 7 mistakes we're making, and then the 7 steps and how to improve on those. But what you're going to do, and what we've been working on, and I will be doing this course for sure, is to go down deeper and make sure that we actually understand sort of how to do each of these things, how to break it down, understand it, and implement it in our own businesses. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So every step you guys saw today is a module. And so you would get a video on how to really go through the exercise. then you would get the template and all the free resources. And that would be from like other resources that I use, like all those resources. And then there would also be office hours each week. If you're like, sometimes it sucks. You're stuck and you're like, I just need someone else to help me get what my values are, what this means. And so I'll be there to be able to help you guys through those office hours and be an extra resource.
I love that. And I just want to add in, because for me, I feel like everyone on this call has somehow come from my world. And so I know all of them, and I know that you guys are like me, which means you're busy. You've got a lot going on, especially as we head into this time of the year. And what I find I need is I can get excited about something like this and get started. But if I don't have that accountability piece to stay to it, to see it to the end, it ends up being like an investment I make that I don't follow through on. So I think that's what I'm loving about being able to work together in a group on something like this, or come together, is that we have an opportunity to learn something that is going to have a start and a finish with people who are like us. This isn't training for just everyone. It's training for fitness entrepreneurs. And I think that is really important, because that's how we're speaking. And one other thing I just wanted to say that for me was really eye-opening is, as you were talking about, maybe you guys can understand this. We've heard, I think most people on this call have probably heard this idea of like, talk to your avatar, talk to your avatar.
Mm.
But I don't know that I really, and even though I can come up with some pain points, when you just kind of laid it out there and you pulled up that Pinterest, and maybe other people would agree with me or could weigh in on this, but it was so interesting for the way you laid it out there, where it's like, what is filling her head? It's not always her I kept thinking like these big, deep, serious problems that are actually keeping her up at night, when really it does come down to like, okay, well, if we know that she's engaged and makes six figures and, has these things going on in her life, like, what are the questions that she has to run through in her mind every single day? And how do we make those answers get to her faster? And that was a really, I don't know, for me, that was a huge light bulb tonight. I don't know if you guys catch that. So to make sure as we're talking to these people, or to our person, that it's not always about, like gut wrenching, like awful things that we've been through, but just about the everyday stuff that we all have to deal with, and how to make that easier for our person. So anyway, huge aha moment there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much for this tonight. I'm going to make sure that everybody gets all this content, that we get everything that you need there to click on those free resources, so you guys can kind of get started on your own journey. But if anybody has questions, and I know Ashley's given her stuff, but if you guys have questions for me about this is the way I'm moving my business. It's making sure that I know I'm really clear on my voice and who I'm talking to, so that I'm helping like my 20% the best that I can. And I think that is where this world is moving now in terms of social and marketing. So thank you. This was amazing tonight, Ashley. Anyone else have any questions before we sign off? I will record it. I'll post the recording. I know there were a bunch of people who couldn't make it on tonight, but thank you so much again, and have a great night, everyone. We will talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.